right, Ezekiel chapter 1. And whenever you're ready, Mom.
Okay, entitled The Living Creatures and the Esteem of Yahuwah. In the 13th day, in the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kedar River, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of Yahuwah. On the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim. The word of Yahuwah came to Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, by the Kebar River in the land of the Babylonians, or footnote Chaldeans. The hand of Yahuwah was upon him. There the hand of Yahuwah was upon him. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounding by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was that of a man, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf, and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under these wings, on their 4 sides, they had the hands of a man. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and then wings touched one another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had the face of a man, and on the right side, each had the face of a lion, and on the face, the left of an ox, each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread out upward. Each had 2 wings touching the wing of another creature on either side, and 2 wings covering its body. Each one went straight ahead. Wherever the spirits would go, they would go, without burning as they went. The appearance of the living creature was like burning coals of fire, or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, and lightning flashed out on it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature with its 4 faces. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like chrysolite, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. As they moved, they would go in any one of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels did not turn about as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved, and when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Whenever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheel would rise along with them. Because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels, when the creatures moved, they also moved. When the creatures stood still, they also stood still, and when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Spread out above the heads of the living creatures was what looked like an expanse, sparkling like ice and awesome. Under the expanse, their wings were stretched out with one toward the other, and each had two wings covering its body. When the creatures moved, I heard the sound of their wings, like the roar of mighty waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from above the expanse over their heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the expanse, covered their heads, what looked like a throne of sapphire, and high above the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his wrist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full on first, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him, like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So with the radiance around him, this was the appearance of the likeness of the esteem of Yahuwah. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. Okay. Now on to 3.
Oh, hold on, Mom. Brother Joshua had his hand up. Go ahead, bro. Cleaning grass.
Yeah, the Masoretic in verse 20, it reads, well, technically it reads the spirit of life. However, you have the NIV, the KJV, and the TS 2009 all reading, they're adding the word creature in there. It's not in the text. It's just supposed to say the spirit of life was in the wheels. Also, that's how the Septuagint reads. Wherever the cloud happened to be, there was the Ruach ready to go. The wheels went and were lifted up with them because the Ruach of life was in the wheels. Creatures is not in the Masoretic or the Septuagint.
Interesting. So what verse was that? Verse 23?
Verse 20.
Four wheels, barrel. Was the spirit ready to go? Spirit of life. Yeah, the ESV is definitely paraphrasing. At least the footnotes guy from whoever's ESV the word software uses puts a little footnote marker here, right next to this number here. It says or spirit of life. Yeah, that's the literal. It would be spirit of life. Yeah. So. Yeah. Living to have the word creatures there, yeah, is not in the text. That's what Brother Josh was bringing up. It should not.
Makes a huge difference. That's a huge difference. That's almost, it seems to be pointing to the literal Ruach of life, meaning Yahuwah's Ruach. In my opinion, that's what it seems to be pointing to.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Just to give someone a personal, before my mom reads chapter 3 or someone else, if they want to read chapter 3, I want to give a visual to what Brother Josh was talking about and how this makes a lot more sense. I have a photo, a rendering of what a Christian did of the wheels within the wheels. I just want to show you guys how this makes a lot of sense. It's talking about the spirit of life rather than the spirit of the living creatures, because the living creatures have their own spirit. Cherubim have their own spirit. I think we can all agree. Yahuwah's Ruach is not their Ruach. So I think, like Brother Joshua said, it does make a huge difference. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think it's under my scriptural photos. Let's see here. So I just showed this the other day to the group. I mean, either one of these photos, you can kind of get the gist of it. But let me see. There's a really good one I like. That this Christian person did a really good job. I'm trying to see why it's not in here. Did it get deleted or something? Let me see. Let me go to that one's there, but where? Oh, I'm just blind as a bat. Okay, here we go. Open. Yeah, so this one was done on DeviantArt.com. You can find it there by the original artist. I thought they did a great job here. I'm going to expand this here. Probably use this as a thumbnail for our prophets portion for today. But as you can see here, this makes a lot of sense, right? You got Yahuwah above the cherubim, right? So his spirit, like Joshua says, is going through the wheels. Makes perfect sense. It kind of wouldn't make much sense if it's talking about the spirit of the living creatures. The living creatures have their own body with their own spirits. Their spirits would be in their heavenly bodies, not in the wheels. You know what I'm saying? It kind of doesn't make much sense if you just look at a visual and just think about it literally. It doesn't really make much sense the way that ESV words it. Oh, wow. Okay. Let me just make sure my shared screen is working correctly. Thank you, Sister Victoria, for bringing that up. Okay, so this is what you should be seeing on the screen. So you got 2 of the 4 living creatures right there, and as Joshua said, how the Septuagint reads, the Ruach of Yahuwah would be going through the wheels within the wheels. So you got Yahuwah above. That's where the light's coming from. Yahuwah above on his throne. Then you have the wheels right over there. Go ahead, Brother Joshua.
Can you bring up a picture of what seraphim would look like? Do you have anything on the top of your?
Yeah, I mean, these 2 guys are a decent rendering of it, but I could probably find a picture that individually would show you what a cherubim would look like. Basically, you got a face.
No. Seraphim.
Seraphim are a little different. Yeah, I'm gonna show how we know seraphim or cherubim are not the same. You can look this up online. First of all, if you look at the root word for seraphim in the Hebrew, it means fiery ones. And so they're basically to be like fire. Let me see here if I can find them. Decent image. They're similar to cherubs, but they're not exactly the same thing. They're similar. See here. Where it gets confusing is a lot of people misunderstand seraphim as cherubim. Number one, if you go to Isaiah 6, it says they have 6 wings. Mm-hmm. So number one, there's a lot of Catholic, images with the 6 wings and all that. The Catholics did their best to render them like that. But basically, they're the fiery ones. So I would say more accurately, you have the 6 wings like this, the human face, but then they would be like on fire. They would be like literally on fire, or take the image of fire. Like, this is perfect. I don't know who did this, but this kind of gets I don't like the whole one eye thing, but the 6 wings with being on fire, that's kind of what a seraphim would be like. They're in the Hebrew, they're called the fiery ones.
I thought it was going to be more like a dragon.
Yeah, well, that's how they're depicted. Yeah, they probably take the form of dragons. Let's see, this kind of gets that idea there.
Okay.
That's kind of like a serpent-like type of angel right there. Yeah, it's weird in the pagan art. They depict them as like literal dragons or serpent-like angels. It seems like more or less that's in the pagan cultures. Probably because they started idolizing them and worshiping them, most likely. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did take form of dragons and stuff like that. The Ethiopian culture definitely viewed them as that. Like, they would even call them serpents. They would call seraphim serpents in their own language. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, And again, we've done a study about this before. We've done a study about why I believe Satan was not a cherub and he was a seraph. And he probably looks like that picture that's up on the screen rather than a cherub. And there's multiple witnesses for this. The fact that the so-called serpents that bit Israel were actually seraphs in the Hebrew. And they were called Nakash Seraphim. So when you actually look into the Tanakh all around, there's the word Nakash and Seraph multiple times. It's coupled together as a type of messenger. So I personally believe that Satan is a Nakash. Satan, the Nakash, was a seraphim, not a cherub. And also due to the Septuagint version of Ezekiel 28, that the cherub is actually the one that threw him out of the stones of fire, or the coals of fire in heaven, which we actually see mentioned here in Ezekiel 1. My mom just read about what the burning coals of fire talked about, Mom, chapter 1 here. So you would have had these cherubs, these 4 living creatures up here in the burning coals of fire. Let me see here. Starts talking about, okay, how did that go? Wow, that's weird. I'm supposed to be on Ezekiel. I don't know how that happened. Here we go. The word of Yahuwah. Interesting that the word of Yahuwah is mentioned a couple of times in this chapter 2, that the word of Yahuwah came to him. The hand of Yahuwah was on him, Yahusha. All right, so the living creatures, an appearance as burning coals of fire. Now, so I kind of wonder, this gets confusing. I kind of wonder if cherubs and seraphim are like, that's another interesting thing too. It seems like the cherubs also can appear as coals of fire. See, this is where I could see how people would get confused with the cherubs and the seraphim. I see why. Appearance of the lambs turning among the living creatures. Oh, no. It says, and in the midst of the living creatures. Okay. An appearance of burning coals of fire. So the burning coals of fire are in the midst of the living creatures. Okay, I got you. Appearance of lamps turning among the living creatures, and the brightness of fire. Out of the fire came forth lightning. See? So you can compare this with the book of Enoch. Messengers appear as lightning in heaven. Like they take on that form. So there's a lot of parallels there. Oh wow. Thank you. Thanks guys for letting me know my screen is frozen. I don't know why it keeps doing it. It's probably because of my connection. But it says the appearance of the wheels was the appearance of beryl. But before that, it talks about there was an appearance of coals and burning fire. So you have, let's see, where does it talk about it here? Let's see here. I just had it too. There we go. And in the midst of living creatures, verse 13 of Ezekiel 1, an appearance of burning coals of fire as the appearance of lamps turning among the living creatures, and the brightness of fire, and out of the fire came forth lightning. So it's very interesting, the appearance of these messengers in heaven. By the way, it's interesting to note the book of Enoch claims that these 4 living creatures, 2 of them are Michael and Gabriel, which is kind of interesting. So to me, that's pretty interesting. So anyway, I'll let my mom continue here. Chapter 3 of Ezekiel. I think my mom's at here.
Mm-hmm. You said 1 to 17?
1 to 12.
12, okay. And he said to me, Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. Then go and speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he gave me the scroll to eat. Then he said to me, Son of man, eat this scroll I am giving you, and fill your stomach with it. So I ate, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. He then said to me, Son of man, go now to the house of Israel and speak my words to them. You are not being sent to a people of obscure speech and difficult language, but to the house of Israel. Not too many people of not too many people of obscure speech and difficult language, whose words you cannot understand. Surely, if I had sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the house of Israel is not willing to listen to you because they are not willing to listen to me. For the whole house of Israel is hardened and obstinate. But I will make you as unyielding and hardened as they are. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Do not be afraid of them or terrified by them, though they are a rebellious house. And he said to me, Son of man, listen carefully and take to heart all the words I speak to you. Go now to your countrymen in exile and speak to them. Say to them, this is what sovereign Yahuwah says, whether they listen or fail to listen. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a loud rushing sound. May the esteem of Yahuwah be praised in his dwelling place.
Mm. 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 Interesting. Some very interesting stuff here. So in chapter 3, you kind of just see it getting into the part about pretty much about him sending Ezekiel to the people. We see again the vision in heaven here. I find it interesting. Again, he tells them to eat the scrolls. Same thing with, who is it, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. So John, there seems to be a direct,
Parallel.
on purpose parallel between Ezekiel and John, with revelations in the book of Ezekiel with the two visions, which is not surprising. I find it interesting too that the earthquake that we see on Earth, like we experience these earthquakes on Earth, it seems like in the heavenly realm is caused by the wings of the living creatures. That's kind of never caught that before. So it seems like Yahuwah has these ministering, spirits actually cause things in the heavenly to cause things on earth. Like let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. How the spiritual and physical are always connected in a weird way. So anyway, I think we're going to move on here. There's nothing else to really touch on because for the most part, Ezekiel, these chapters of Ezekiel are very similar. They're not that different. What I did want to touch on, I forgot to mention to you guys, according to my this translation I have that my beloved sister Lynn Marie gave me, the RS, the Restored Scriptures to True Name Edition, according to this translator, Ezekiel 1 is forbidden in rabbinical Judaism today. So I did want to just put that out there. That's something for you guys to research. The claim is that supposedly it's a forbidden chapter in Ezekiel. They don't want their people reading Ezekiel 1 because of how much pro-Yahusha it is and how much it shows that Yahusha, the oneness of Yahuwah and Yahusha in that chapter. So anyway, go ahead, Brother Joshua.
Obviously, we know that this is way after the Book of Job. I still find it interesting, though, that you only see this character mentioned in these two books. It says Ezekiel the Kahan, the son of Buzi. When you look at that, Strong's is not sure if that's actually referring to his father or his ancestor. I would really side with an ancestor simply for the fact that Elihu in Job, what chapter? 32:2. then Elihu, the son of Barachiel, the Buzite. So this character Buzi, I just find it interesting that you only see that character mentioned in Ezekiel and Job. I wonder if Ezekiel descended from this guy. He just kind of pops up in Job out of the middle of nowhere. He doesn't seem to be there. I don't know. It's kind of off topic, but it's just.
That is interesting. Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to that. About his lineage. Trying to think if there's any major differences that we saw in Ezekiel here so far. I was surprised that I didn't see any Adonais being added in here. I was kind of shocked a little bit. Because usually you'll start seeing them like trying to slip one in here and there. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, actually, there is a little bit of a difference, but wait a minute, that might just be because that paragraph's in the next chapter, probably. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what happened. All right. I see what happened. Sometimes it does that. But yeah, so that's pretty much our prophets portion there. We just got one more portion left. I think what we're going to do is we're going to set up a new reading here. And since we're kind of ahead of time, I think we might take a break, guys, and do a short little intermission for people that need to eat or whatever, or need to get something to drink. And we'll be back soon with Acts chapter 2, and that will be it for the Haftarah reading. So please stay tuned, brothers and sisters on YouTube, and those that will see this later when I share it to Facebook and all of that. So we'll be back very shortly.